Ladies and gents, it's Sunday morning and it's time for an alternative paper review. First up to the Times, who lead with the overnight political announcement that Sunak's Tories will implement mandatory national service if re-elected in July. Yeah, mandatory. I mean, it says you will volunteer for it. It says the people who do it will be volunteers. But it also says that it will be mandatory. So, I mean, what does this even mean? Like, is this like when your mum would ask you what you were doing that day? And you would go, well, I thought I might have some breakfast and then I might tidy my room. And then she's like, yeah, that's right, you will tidy your room. And you're like, I know. I just said that. Yes, well, that is what you're doing. And it's like, what? Why did you even frame it like I had options then? Anyway, yes, the Telegraph, the Express, all of them have got empty balls this morning at the prospect of pushing young people into unpaid work to, bolster public services? I mean, it would be amusing, really, wouldn't it, if it weren't so depressing? Like, only yesterday you had the Tories scoffing at Labour's plan to give 16 and 17-year-olds the vote, didn't you? Like, what do you know when you're 16 years old? Oh, you don't know anything at 17. At that age, they are just kids, apparently. Even though, when at a similar age, Shamima Begum was trafficked across Europe, into Syria, into the ISIS caliphate. When she was radicalised and trafficked, then she knew what she was doing. I mean, there should be a name for that equation. You know, to help you make sense of it. Like, she knew what she was doing when she was going to fight for ISIS, just like our 16-year-olds know what they're doing when they sign up to go and fight for us. But none of them would know what they're doing if it came to walking into a voting booth. So yes, bullets and rifles, yes. Pencil and paper, no, that's too much. That is complex. Too complex for 16-year-olds. Clearly, you have to stay on into higher education to learn that stuff, I think. I mean, if we look at the policy at the base level of what it is, or what the criticism of it pretends to be, it seems to be driven by the idea that a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old wouldn't necessarily have the experience or mental development to be able to make an informed decision of such magnitude. Though, interestingly, did you know the average age of a peer in the House of Lords is upwards of 70, right? Did you know that? And then did you know that the average age that Alzheimer's kicks in, that dementia begins to break down your personality, your frontal lobe, your memory, your cognitive ability, right? The average age that Alzheimer's kicks in is 60. And did you know that 10%, 1 in 10 of us, will get dementia, will start to experience Alzheimer's? And yet, not one single House of Lords peer has been removed or banned from voting or signing bills, despite the almost statistical certainty that about 70 of them are probably suffering from some form of dementia right now. No, we can't give the vote to the 16 and 17-year-olds. They lack the cognitive capacity to make such informed decisions. All right, but Lord Quaffington Smythe over there keeps banging on about when is it time to get ice cream. Are you sure he's best placed to sign this new bill that's coming in? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, mentally, he still thinks it's 1977. But with living standards and taxes and strikes the way they are, I mean, we're basically back to that point. So who would be better placed? But anyway, I digress. The voting age stuff was yesterday. Now, today, the Tories are adding to their suite of youth policies, which until now comprised of, I'm sure I don't need to tell you guys this, but here are their youth policies to date. They've made it harder for people to vote when over the age of 18. They're making it impossible for people under the age of 18 to vote. They're banning vaping. They're banning phones. They're ruining the environment. They're making it almost impossible to buy a home. They're touting the draft. They've dismissed the economic concerns of young people as what? Avocado and Netflix. They're saddling them with student debts that are progressively closing the gap on America's unsustainable classist nightmare. And so, yes, now they're going to sprinkle a little bit of national service on there too. and they wonder why young people hate them. You know, if you ask anybody under the age of 60, it's like, yeah, are you gonna vote Conservative? Well, I want to be honest with you there, Aid. I would rather lick my father's asshole. Elsewhere in the Sunday papers, the Mirror are leading with how Eamon Holmes has announced he and his wife Ruth are, after 14 years together, regrettably getting divorced. Now, she says there is no way back, and their work has just sent them in different directions, which is, you know, just heartbreaking, really, isn't it? It's tragic when relationships break down like that, when work sends you in different directions. He says, I'm getting divorced and I'm going to be talking about it on my GB News show tonight. That was a terrible accent. I apologise. But yes, 14 years together, and now work has pushed them in different directions, apparently. And he works for GB News, right? And this is the first time in 14 years that we are ejecting the Tories, isn't it? It's all sort of comes together. It's interesting, right? Do you think when they first got together, they were both sane-ish, you know? And then do you think maybe over the course of 14 years, like over that space of time, do you think he's become more radicalized? She's become more politically desperate. She sees the state of the country and how it's just declining and collapsing. It's corruption, incompetence. She sees that. But he's over here, like, questioning about, you know, COVID and 5G and running to do contracts with GB News. Integrity's home, no less. And former home of such conspiracy theory fans as Lawrence Fox, you know, because he was anti-jab and anti-mask, and then you had Mark Stein. He got kicked off GB News for that sort of conspiracy stuff. You know, you still got Neil Oliver, or, you know, Freeview Jesus, as I call him. You still got him on there spouting stuff about cashless societies and the deep state. So here's my question. Here's what leaps to my mind when I see that these two are divorcing. I'm like, do we think that maybe in the last 14 years, year by year, month by month, Eamon's just been getting more and more crazy and radicalized while his tired, fed up wife is over there like, Eamon, man, I'm begging you, please, can you just put down the remote and the pie? And he's just like, but Ruth, if Labour get in, it's the blob and the lizard people and the deep state. You know, and she's just like, there's no way back from this. He's just brain fried. You know, there's nothing rational going on up there at all anymore. Maybe we should give him national service. But like, poor Ruth, man. Poor Ruth. She seems like a nice lady, doesn't she? You know, just consider this from Ruth's perspective. She gets married in what, like 2010, 2011, to a reasonably sane fellow newsy journalism guy. And, you know, she's imagining where they're headed, where that relationship is going to take her. But then he falls in with this 5G, COVID, cashless society, GB News lot. And over the space of those 14 years, you know. Anyway, finally, in 2024, she's like, wow, you know, if I take your recent decline, Eamon, and extrapolate it or expand it across the next 14 years, you know, if I imagine where we're headed, Eamon, I suppose the most likely end point or end game for this, if you carry on at the same velocity in the same direction as you have been the last 14 years, the most likely trajectory that we're on now is that we move underground into the sewers to escape the tyranny of the WEF. We move into the sewers with Neil Oliver. That's where we're headed. Neil Oliver's going to end up like Dennis Leary in Demolition Man, you know? Banging on about freedoms while eating a rat burger in the sewers. And poor Ruth is just like, you know, that is not how I pictured our retirement, to be honest with you, Eamon. Like, I think that's where this is headed for a lot of these people. Your Neil Olivers, you know, your Lawrence Foxes, Andrew Bridgens, all of that type of person. that contrarian conspiracy theory type of man. And you know what? It's probably not by accident. I mean, we all thought that the reason that Thames Water and Southern Water and all of the rest of them were funneling sewage out into the lakes, rivers and seas, we all thought that the reason for that was because they can no longer get hold of the chemicals after Brexit. So they couldn't dispose of the sewage in a safe manner using those chemicals anymore. And that's why they dump it all in the river and the sea. But no, actually, I think what is happening here, guys, is that since they defunded the asylums, since they started dismissing and disparaging the mental health epidemic in the United Kingdom, I think what we're seeing now is they are deliberately emptying, evacuating the sewers of their natural contents so that then they're vacant, in which they can then lure the least stable of society into them. Because, I mean, it's either put them down there or let them sit in the House of Lords, isn't it?